there are very few things that need your immediate attention. And it is okay to take, an hour or two for yourself every day. And that's the most precious time that I have.
Okay, welcome back to the Marketing Playbook, presented by Details Interactive, Amperity, and Element. Here you'll take away 3 game-winning marketing plays every episode to take back to your team. I'm your host, Mark Friedman, and my career has been focused on direct-to-consumer marketing, direct mail, physical retail, and digital commerce. This is episode number 99, and today's guest is Michelle Wahler. Michelle was the co-founder of Beyond Yoga, a women's active lifestyle brand. She sold the company to Levi's in 2022 and stayed on to run the brand and participate as part of the Levi's leadership team. We met a few years ago, and I was so impressed with her vision for the business, her passion, and her genuine interest in helping women be their best selves. Michelle also offers some wonderful insights for us about the need to slow down every once in a while and to enjoy what you've accomplished. Before we get started, a quick thank you, as always, to Max Branstetter of the Wow Business Growth Podcast for producing this episode. You can reach him at max@maxpodcasting.com to help bring your podcast to life. Let's open the playbook. Ready, break. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the Marketing Playbook Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Michelle Wahler. Michelle is an entrepreneur, business leader, and mother. In 2005, she co-founded the active lifestyle company Beyond Yoga, where as CEO, she built the product and brand from the ground up. What started as a mere concept led to a global wholesale business, e-commerce site, and opening of 6 retail stores, selling tens of millions of units around the world over the course of nearly 20 years. Michelle built a female-focused organization with an unwavering commitment to inclusivity, diversity, and empowerment, both among employees and customers. She skillfully navigated negotiations and led her team through the brand's acquisition by Levi Strauss & Company in 2021. Post-acquisition, she continued her role as CEO of Beyond Yoga and joined the executive leadership team of Levi Strauss. Michelle, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's my pleasure, and thank you for doing this. And as I promised, this is going to be painless. It's going to be conversational. And when you get off, you're going to go see Jesse, and we'll talk about Jesse in a second. Tell Jesse it was easy, and I really enjoyed it.
Amazing. Well, Jesse said he hopes that he gets the opportunity to come back and do one of these with you as well.
Okay, well, great. We'll talk to him about that and figure out a time. So we start these shows, Michelle, kind of getting the first story of people, a little bit about where they grew up. Was there anything in your upbringing that might have suggested that you would be an entrepreneur, that you would develop this large company, sell it to a major, conglomerate, and be on your way?
There's definitely some pieces of my upbringing that led to this. I don't think I ever imagined that the outcome was going to be what it was. I don't think my dad did either. But I grew up on the East Coast. I grew up in Maryland, and being an entrepreneur is kind of in my blood because my father was an entrepreneur, and I watched him grow and build his business. And then I also watched him lose his business. So he really inspired me, but that also scared me a lot. So equally as influential was my mom, and she's amazing and I love her, and she's smart and beautiful, but I watched her struggle with her own self-image and, how she perceived herself and her self-value. And, that was hard. And I watched how so many women struggle with their own self-value and how they see themselves. And it's just very different than how I think they really are. And I think a lot of that has to do with the diet culture that we were raised around and all of the very skinny models that were portrayed as the ideal for beauty when we were growing up. But, I feel very fortunate that I survived my childhood and had pretty high self-esteem, and I feel like I'm very lucky. And when I, went on to go to the University of Florida, go Gators, I studied graphic design and marketing, and I continued to see many women having these struggles who were amazing and should have been confident, and for some reason saw themselves in a different light than I wished they had. And so then I moved to New York and I worked in publishing. I worked for People Magazine and Harper's Bazaar. And when I was there, I got to see kind of firsthand how images are retouched, how much photoshopping goes on, how, there's just an unrealistic expectation of what women are supposed to look like, or at least at that point, 20 years ago in media, that's what we were seeing. So around that time, I had my first entrepreneurial endeavor, and I started a company called Unsweetened, where I would do illustrative drawings of women, and it was my first real entree into the clothing and manufacturing world. But I would draw women, like illustrative designs, and put them on clothing, and I called it the unsweetened version of you, and I would show them how they really were, but celebrate them at the same time. And that really taught me a lot about manufacturing and wholesale, and how to figure out costing and what went into making a garment. And then my entrepreneurial endeavors led me to Los Angeles, where I was very quickly introduced to my business partner, Jody, who had the brilliant idea of creating a clothing line that celebrates women of all shapes and sizes. And that idea was extremely exciting to me. And so after we met, I very quickly had some ideas about what we could do with the business. And I sent her some sketches, and pretty much the next day she called me and said, our relationship is about to change. And I've spent the last 18 and a half years building, growing, and leading the Beyond Yoga team, taking it from an idea to a global brand, employing hundreds of people directly and indirectly, and driving over $500 million in revenue, and running a profitable business without taking on any additional funding. And one of the things I'm the most proud of for my 2 decades of running Beyond Yoga is just, how we celebrated women of all shapes and sizes, and how our marketing imagery really reinforced that all bodies are good bodies. And the beauty comes in many different shapes, sizes, and colors. And we really celebrated that. And I know that these days, size inclusivity is table stakes for any company that is getting started, but it just was not the case 20 years ago.
So awesome story. We can stop right now and celebrate your career, but I think there's a lot more that listeners would like to hear. I've spent my career in direct to consumer, catalog, physical retail, and digital, and most of it has been in apparel. And I've worked in businesses that were higher price point, more luxury. I worked in businesses that were, kind of startup and what I'll call oversized. So the body shape didn't so much matter. But, there's still this belief, as much as you worked to get people to think otherwise. There's still this belief that in order to get people to buy, you can't necessarily show them their body type. You have to show them an aspirational body type. I don't agree with it, but there's definitely still brands that believe that.
I think that the trick is to showcase all of the body types in an aspirational way. It can be aspirational because of the clothing. It can be aspirational because of the environment. It can be aspirational because you're showing, people doing something that makes them genuinely happy. I'm not really a big fan of the photography that shows women looking very bored and unengaged.
You want them smiling,
I like for people to look happy.
right? I agree with you.
I think that's aspirational, because I feel like we're all striving to be happy and fulfilled in life. And that's a good representation of what we all want. I don't think we're all striving really to be skinny. I think people are striving to be happy and fulfilled.
So when you think back to, you changed your business relationship or your relationship with with Jody, and so this is, early in the 2000s. What were some of the first things that you felt like you needed to do? And you made a point of saying in your opening that you didn't take any funding, so this was a bootstrapped kind of a thing. What did you guys think of first?
Well, in the beginning, it was all about the product. And I mean, let's be honest, it's still all about the product. But we were very focused on making clothing that was going to make women feel amazing the moment they put the clothing on. And I think one thing that we did differently, most companies start with a size small model and then they scale it. And we actually started in the very beginning, we started working off of a medium model, and then we would try the clothing on multiple body types to make sure that it was working before we put it into production. And, one of the things that we were very passionate about was making sure that people felt really confident in their clothing, doing whatever it was that they were going to do. So we were happy if you were going to go to the gym and work out, but we were also just as happy if you were going to wear your Beyond Yoga and take your kids to school and run errands and possibly go to work. And then you squeezed in something active, but we made clothing that layered and was transitional. So you didn't look like you were necessarily going to the gym.
Help me and certainly the listeners. So this is the early 2000s, and Beyond Yoga is, a workout wear kind of product. The competitors that are in the market today, the Athletas, the Fabletics, the Lululemons, were they in the market then? Who were you competing with?
Lulu had their first store in Santa Monica in 2005. So they were there, but it definitely wasn't focused on women of all different shapes and sizes. I think the big competitors at that point were Hardtail and Lulu. It wasn't much of a market at that point. Everybody was focused on very tall, thin women, and that was who they were going after. And we wanted to be more realistic about who we were targeting. And yoga, I think, was still very early in the, popularity that it's seen in the US, but it was definitely more popular on the West Coast. And, we just wanted to make clothing that really supported people, that made them feel great, that, didn't dig in, but held them in the right places, had natural, had wicking, had four-way stretch, but was soft and cozy and didn't give you that feeling that you wanted to just rip your clothing off after your workout, but that you could actually continue on in your day and still be very comfortable.
I imagine the fabrications have changed dramatically from when you first got started.
It actually, it's grown. We started, I think our first fabric was Supplex, and we had a layering fabric that we used of Pima cotton, but I think it was like 5 years into Beyond Yoga when I discovered the fabric that I consider our core fabric, which is called space dye. And that's still a very integral part of the brand today. So that fabric's been with us for a while, and it's amazing.
What did you see in the market that said, this is what the market needs today? There was some void, obviously, you felt either perhaps for a personal need, and you said, geez, I want to work out and I can't find clothing to wear that makes me feel good when I work out. I mean, is that perhaps how you found that there was a need to do this?
I think Jody was the muse of the product, because Jody's a beautiful, full-figured woman and curvy, and all of the clothing at that time was meant for very, just one type of body. And so I think that initially we designed the clothing to fit her, and then for me, I'm petite, and I'm 5'3" on a good day, and so we wanted to make sure that there was clothing for women of all shapes and sizes, who were tall, who were short, who were curvy, who were not. We wanted people to feel really good about themselves. And part of going to the gym it can just be intimidating just to walk in the door. We don't want people to have to think about what they are wearing too. And is this fitting the right way? Is that going to fall down? Is that going to be sheer? So all of these things were very important to us.
So once you had a line and you now are bringing product to market, what channel did you get started in?
We started with wholesale, and that was, really great for us because I think that, you know, people started to discover the brand and learn about the brand through channels that they really respected. One of our first account, I think, was a yoga studio called Drishti, but then quickly we were picked up by Yoga Works, which, was one of the premier yoga studios on the West Coast and has since grown and gone through its own challenges. But I think when people would find us at their local studio and then they would see us, at Nordstrom, and then we would grow and we were in, the Four Seasons, it started to build this trust that people had with the brand, gave people the confidence to buy it. And, that's what helped grow.
So you go from wholesale and then your own stores or digital first?
I mean, we didn't open our own stores until after the acquisition. So that was something that we didn't have the internal expertise for, as Beyond Yoga existed pre-acquisition. And we knew that was something that if we were going to really get into brick and mortar, we were going to need to hire people. And we were already so focused on what we were doing with our wholesale, with our manufacturing, and with our D2C that it was just, on the future roadmap, but it wasn't what we didn't have that like internal expertise to pull on. So we saved that for a little bit later. But direct to consumer, it's funny because in the very beginning, I think we built our first website off of Flash. I don't know if anyone remembers that. I might be dating myself, but it
No,
was
I certainly do. That's for sure.
it was not very user friendly. We definitely put our wholesale partners first in our mindset as we were thinking about how we were going to sell online. I remember being very concerned that our wholesale partners would be upset if we could sell on our own website. And so we would launch with wholesale first. And then if we hadn't, if there was anything that we hadn't sold that we had manufactured, then we would put it online afterwards. And eventually we realized that they all work in partnership. And we put those, then we started building our direct to consumer business, and we saw that it was a flywheel. As one side of the business grew, the other grew. And we kept saying, oh, we're going to go much heavier into direct to consumer. That's going to be the way. But wholesale kept growing. So everything we invested in D2C just continued to further our wholesale business, which was a beautiful thing.
Element is an award-winning advertising agency optimizing e-commerce campaigns around profit. In fact, they've helped 13 of their customers get acquired, with one selling for nearly $800 million and one that IPO'd recently. Plus, they were ranked as the 12th fastest growing agency in the world by Adweek. If you're an e-commerce business that needs help scaling your ads profitably, check them out at element.com, spelled ELUMYNT.com. I referenced Jesse, who is your husband. And at what moment in time did he get involved in the business?
He joined us after I married him.
Okay.
So we were married, and I think I was about 5 years into the business. He's an exceptionally smart human, probably one of the smartest people I know. And I said, can you please stop helping everybody else scale their business and pay some attention to me? And I said, could you please come help me for a little bit? And I didn't think that it was going to be a forever situation, but we ended up working really well together. We have a great partnership, and Jesse, sees things that I don't see, and I see things that he doesn't see. And it really turned out to be an amazing partnership, and I wouldn't be where I am without him.
That's great. When you think back to the early days of starting the business, and I like to ask this question of people that have started their own business, and I get very relatively consistent answers. What were the one or two things that turned out to be much harder than you ever expected they would be?
Well, can I say everything?
Well, that's an easy answer.
But it's true. I think that one of my strengths and weaknesses is that I'm a little bit naive, and I had no idea how difficult this was going to be. Luckily, that didn't stop me because every aspect of the journey had its challenges. I think some of the most difficult parts are probably the people parts. The people make things great, but the people make things difficult. And when you are working so closely with people and you really care about them, and then sometimes the business has a different need, or things shift, or they need to leave for other reasons, it can be really challenging. But I think the people part is probably one of the things that I wasn't expecting to be as challenging as it was, but it's also extremely rewarding.
And as you think back to, Michelle, yourself of 2000 and, early 2000s when you're starting the business, and you think about now today, you're obviously different. But, are there one or two things that stand out for you as the most different about your personality, your temperament, your skill set?
Well, I think that I have learned to slow down. In the beginning, I did not know how to stop, and I would literally work around the clock. I think having children made me realize that sometimes you just have to pause. I made a commitment to myself very early on when my first child was born, that when I came home from work, I was going to stop working completely, and he would get all of my attention until he went to bed. And I realized there are very few things that need your immediate attention. And it is okay to take, an hour or two for yourself every day. And that's the most precious time that I have.
Yeah, and as I mentioned to you at the beginning of the show, we like to give our listeners three key takeaways that they can bring back to their personal lives or professional lives. And I think you just gave me one of them right there. I know you talked, about how important Jesse was to the business. Was it more complicated to be able to separate the work life from the home life because your business partner was also your personal partner?
I would say a little bit,
Yeah.
but we tried really hard to, make sure that we kept that division. He was on board with me in terms of when we came home, we were with the kids, and that time from 6 until 7:30 or 8, that was precious. And then usually once we went, put them down, we were both in the office I'm in right now, in our house, working, and, you know, until all hours of the night. And so, the rule was kind of, once we get into the bedroom, no shop talk. But we broke that rule many times because we were very integrated. Every piece of our life was integrated in this business. This was our everything. And all of our financial viability was tied up in this. And sometimes I would say to Jesse, is it okay? Like, everyone says, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Now I've looped you into this business. Do we really want to do that? And he would always say, you know what? When you have all of your eggs in one basket, you never take your eye off that basket. And so, that's how we lived our lives.
As time progressed and you started to, grow the business, marketing, it becomes important. You made a comment earlier, and even though I have spent my career as a marketing guy, financial early on, but marketing guy, I've always believed that it really is about the product. And as long as I don't screw it up too badly in marketing, we're going to be just fine. But marketing is important. So as time progressed, how did you get the message out of Beyond Yoga? You clearly had your wholesale doors, which were helping you, but the D2C was driven somewhat, I imagine, from wholesale, but there had to be other ways to bring people to your business.
Absolutely. So, we started off with no paid media, but that was, I believe, what people did 20 years ago. We were fortunate enough that we did have a lot of celebrities who early on really loved our product and bought it on their own and wore it without us asking them to, and they were photographed buying our clothing. I think there was I had this memory of a picture of Reese Witherspoon buying a pair of our leggings at Jill Roberts' boutique, and that was a big deal. And I think that gave our wholesale partners some comfort in bringing our brand into their shops. But as we grew, we definitely invested in digital marketing, and we needed to acquire customers, and we needed to introduce new people to the brand. That's exactly what we did. We did direct mailings. We did digital marketing. We tested search. Every avenue we explored. But I think what was really cool and interesting was we took a very data heavy approach to things, and we analyzed everything to a degree that maybe many people don't. But we were very focused on, how long it would take for us to break even, how much did it cost for us to acquire a customer. We looked at everybody in different cohorts. We looked at first-time customers. We looked at people who were buying our maternity line. We, looked at people who bought bright colors versus people who were into neutrals. When we saw an ad wasn't performing, we didn't just automatically pull the creative and assume that it was a problem with the creative. We would look and see, all right, are we missing the inventory? Is this why this isn't, performing anymore? If something was really successful, we didn't, on the flip side, we didn't just assume, oh, well, this image works for everybody. We would dissect it. We're like, is it the color? Is it is it the model selection? Is it the copy? Is it the product? And, we would exhaust all options to make sure that we were tweaking everything to make sure that we were getting the most bang for our buck, because for the majority of our existence we were break even and reinvesting every dollar we made back into the business. And you need to be very careful with your money when you don't have lots of extra.
Well, it was your money.
Exactly.
It was your money. So that's interesting. Thriving brands today have one thing in common. They make it a priority to understand their customers. Imperity uses AI to unify customer data and help businesses know exactly who their customers are and what they care about most. Find new customers, grow loyalty, get better return on ad spend, and manage privacy compliance. An accurate, unified customer data foundation connected with the teams and tools that need it makes everything you do with customer data work better. Build your strategy on Imperity, the platform for customer data. Learn more at imperity.com. At some moment in time, often as it happens, you realize perhaps that you've taken it as far as you can, or something else transpires. What was that one thing, or maybe it was multiple things that transpired where you guys said, you know what, perhaps it's time for us to sell?
That just didn't happen.
Okay.
We were extremely happy running our business, and we were not looking to sell at all. And this opportunity actually really found us. So, we've always believed in running a great and profitable and growing business and controlling your own destiny. And, I was and continue to be extremely excited about Beyond Yoga and what it meant to our team and what it meant to our customers. And I had no intention of selling, but when Levi's calls or writes to you on LinkedIn, you respond. And, it was extremely flattering. And, I knew that being associated or being a part of Levi's was really going to set Beyond Yoga up for longevity. They're a 170-year-old brand, and I wanted that for my baby. And I feel like at this point, I feel like a very proud parent whose child has gone off to the Ivy Leagues.
That's a great way of describing it. And I think I mentioned this to you, Chip Berg, who's most recently now ex CEO of Levi's, who I'm sure that you interacted with quite a bit in your sale. Chip was one of my first guests on this podcast. He is an alum of Lafayette College, where I went to school. He was also in the same fraternity. As I like to kid him, he was much older than me, so we were not in the fraternity at the same time, living there at the same time. But he was a great gentleman to be on the show when there were about, as I told him, I think my mother is listening, and that's about it. But how did that go? I'm sure there were many conversations of what are you going to do with my baby, Chip?
Well, Chip is amazing. He was the CEO who ultimately, was the champion of the acquisition of Levi's purchasing Beyond Yoga. So for that, he will always hold a very special place on my heart. And, one of the things I love about Chip is that he really believed in Beyond Yoga and did not want to change what made us unique and special. And I think he wanted to, lean in where we wanted help, but he also wanted to make sure that we preserved what was amazing and what they were acquiring. And, I definitely got to work very closely with Chip. I reported directly to him, which was awesome. One of the things that was very cool about the acquisition was I got to be a part of the executive leadership team at LS & Co. And, all throughout the lead up to the sale, as you're getting to know, the other side, they talked a lot about their principles, and it was very compelling. And, I really believed everything they said, but being on the leadership team at Levi's gave me a firsthand view of how authentic it is and how they put the, principles before profits is the big saying. And they really live what, they practice what they say. And it was very nice to see them living their values, and gave me a lot of confidence that I'd made the right decision of who I passed my baby on to.
I spoke to him shortly after the acquisition, and I had written him a note and just to congratulate him, and we wound up having a phone conversation after that, and he was so excited to have kind of won the sweepstakes to buy. I know it wasn't a sweepstakes, but he was so excited by the fact that he was going to be able to buy your company, work with you and Jesse, and really be able to take the platform that they had created for their brand and bring some of that to you and help your company grow. Again, I know he was excited.
I love that. And no, I don't think we would have sold if the circumstances had been anything else. Like we were doing extremely well. We were still loving everything we did. I still believe there was and still is so much more potential for Beyond Yoga. And I think they got a great deal. I think we made a smart deal.
And so what's next for you?
That's a great question. I got some good advice, and I was told to just take a minute and celebrate the win. So I am trying to do that right now. I am not used to moving any slower than I was when I was running the business. So, I am trying to lean into the things that are really important to me, like my family and, health and wellness and my friends and female founders and female empowerment. So, it's been really exciting. I didn't realize, because I think I spent so much time heads down in the business, but I didn't realize what a phenomenal female entrepreneurial network there is in Los Angeles. And I have just been meeting the most incredible women and such supportive, brilliant people. And literally, I spend all of my time just trying to be a helpful human and connecting with different founders and different leaders, and just trying to be supportive and helpful in any way I can, or connect people, or just be a sounding board if they need one, or someone to listen. And it's been phenomenal.
Well, I'm really happy for you, and I said this to you before we got started on the show. I had reached out to you a number of years ago, and we chatted a bit, and I pinged you from time to time, and you were as busy as you were always very gracious to write me back, and not a lot of people do that, so I want to thank you for that.
Oh, well, I thank you. And I have been really wanting to come on this podcast for such a long time. So I appreciate you being patient with me and still wanting to have me, even though I had to push things so many times. So I really appreciate you. And you are always so kind and inspiring. And I feel just very lucky to be here.
Well, good. Thank you very much. So we're at the end of the show. We do a 2-minute drill, 7 questions, 1 word answer. Michelle, nobody ever sticks to 1 word, even though I say 1 word. Okay. All right. You ready?
Right?
All right. A brand that you admire or that inspires you.
Dove.
Favorite app on your phone.
Whoop or Instagram, probably Instagram, but I do enjoy the data.
Last website other than Amazon that you shopped from.
I mean, I do all my shopping on Instagram.
Really
The problem.
interesting. Something that you're not good at, but that you wish that you were.
Singing.
Charitable organization that you're passionate about.
The Special Olympics.
If you had one superpower, what would it be?
Ooh, I would love to have the ability to be in more than one place at one time and still be able to give 100% of myself in each location.
Other than family, what's your most prized possession?
I'm assuming dogs count as family.
Yeah, we've had dogs for sure.
I would say my memories.
Good. I like that one. Where can people reach out to you on social media if they would like to be in touch?
I'm going to say LinkedIn. I am not the best at social media, but I'm going to go with LinkedIn.
Okay, great. Well, look, thank you so much for the time. You look really happy, which is great. You haven't stopped smiling for the 35 minutes or so that we've been on the show together. And it has nothing to do with me. You just look like you're happy. So, congratulations on great success. Take the win. And I hope that when you start something new, you'll come back on the show and tell us all about it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. This has been so fun, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
That's it. Today's game ball goes to Michelle Wahler for coming on the marketing playbook. To me, today's 3 game-winning marketing plays were as follows. Number 1, it's all about the product. Yes, as a marketing guy, I can admit that. You can have the best creative and the best marketing programs, but if you're not selling what the customer wants, then you're left with no business. Michelle spoke about the need to bring your customers what they want and sometimes things that they don't even know that they need. Offer innovation in design or fabric and help the customer understand their problems and how your products are the solutions they need. Number 2, learn how to slow down. Michelle spoke about what she did after she sold the company. She took a minute, spent some time with her family, and has now started to slowly think about what's next for her. We all try to run really fast, sometimes too fast, but sometimes you just have to slow down and celebrate the wins. And number 3, I've spoken to many founders on this show, and I always like to ask them what was harder than they expected it would be as they were getting their company off the ground. Michelle's answer was honest. Everything was harder than I thought it would be. Being a founder is not for the faint of heart, but if you have the idea and the passion and the vision, give it a shot, but realize that just about everything will be harder than what you expected, and don't be afraid to ask for help. Thank you, Playbook marketers, for listening to another episode. If you want to check out more pages of the Marketing Playbook, make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast spot and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Until next time, the devil is in the details.